Do you or a loved one suffer from contact dermatitis, also known as atopic dermatitis, also known as eczema? If you do and you're breaking out in rashes and very itchy and red, this is very common and can be triggered by many things. The triggers could be ingested, inhaled, injected via IV, or injected intramuscularly, such as with a vaccine. So your reactions could be caused by food, or could be caused by a vaccine injection, could be caused by cooking a food that maybe you're not eating, but you inhale the molecules. Say you're allergic to wheat and you know that, so you don't eat it, but you still cook it for your family. If you inhale it through your sinuses or it lands on your eyeballs, that can still lead to systemic contact dermatitis and still lead to reactions. So you want to be very careful of that. Also, topical creams and topical medications can also create it. How will contact dermatitis manifest? Well, systemic contact dermatitis can manifest as local flares of current dermatitis or new local flares to the injection site or the topical site, or it could react as respond as a non-specific systemic reaction. It could occur within hours of exposure or days of exposure. So it's not always a right away reaction, and so it's not always easy to put your finger on, hey, that's what I responded to. Studies show that it could be, if it's delayed eczematic reactions, it could be up to 2 days later after the exposure that you respond. So you're going to have to do some detective work for sure. Now, there are multiple food exposures that can create contact dermatitis or eczema that you may not be aware of. One is called balsam of Peru, one is nickel, one is propylene glycol, one is chamomile, and one is formaldehyde. So the most common food triggers you're probably aware of, those are wheat, milk, soy, and eggs. But these other ones that I just listed, the balsam of Peru, the nickel, the propylene glycol, the chamomile, and the formaldehyde, you're probably not eating directly, except maybe the chamomile through chamomile tea, but the others you probably didn't even know you're eating. So let's go through those today to help you understand where to find them and how to avoid them. I'm Dr. John Bartemus, and I'm putting the pieces together to help you live a life at optimal. So what hidden triggers are there that may be flaring your eczema, even though you say, hey, I've been perfect and I've avoided the wheat, I've avoided the milk, the soy, and the eggs? Well, there's multiple. There's balsam of Peru, nickel, propylene glycol, chamomile, formaldehyde. Let's go through them each. What is balsam of Peru? Well, balsam of Peru is a tree, and you'll say, well, I haven't eaten a balsam tree lately, so I know that's not a trigger. Well, right, I hear you, but there's chemicals in the balsam of Peru tree called cinnamates and vanillins, so that sounds like cinnamon and vanilla, right? That you do consume on a frequent basis, and balsam of Peru allergy or allergic response is one of the most common responses in North America. Why? Well, because it's in many fragrances. So many fragrance response, if you're chemically sensitive to fragrances, like you can't walk through the Macy's perfume aisle without responding, this may be you. Well, balsam of Peru can cause reactions in people who may also be reactive to citrus, tomatoes, and as we said, cinnamon and vanilla and cloves, because those spices can come from the balsam of Peru tree. So you want to watch baked goods, condiments, chocolate, liquor, and cola. If you're consuming those things, those may be the triggers for you. Nickel. Nickel is the most common allergen in the United States based on skin scratch testing. And you'll probably say, hey, I've never eaten nickel. Well, you have, you probably just don't realize it. and the nickel specifically will create contact dermatitis on the hands. So if you break out in your hands only, then you probably have a nickel reaction. So you want to investigate your diet and start to avoid whole wheat bread, oatmeal, beans, lentils, peas, soy, and canned foods. Propylene glycol. What is propylene glycol? It sounds like it was made in a lab, right? Well, it was. Propylene glycol is common in many skin products, in many hair products, and topical medications. So things that you aren't consuming through the mouth, but you're putting it on your skin or your hair, so it's being absorbed through that semi-permeable membrane into your body and available for an immune reaction. Believe it or not, propylene glycol is an antifreeze and brake fluid, and it's also in certain foods. Why is that allowed in our foods? Ask the FDA. But the foods that contain propylene glycol commonly are salad dressings, barbecue sauces, snow cone mixes, food colorings, and sour cream. So again, if you're reacting and you're avoiding the common wheat, milk, soy, and eggs perfectly, propylene glycol may be something you want to look for in your hair products, in your skin products, in your medications, and in those foods I just listed, because it's very commonly in there. Chamomile is ingested by Americans as chamomile tea. You may be doing that because you think you're doing something healthy and good for yourself to help yourself calm down, but it may be specific to you. It may be a trigger for your eczema or contact dermatitis. So pay attention to that. Cut it out, and if your dermatitis improves, then chamomile may be a trigger for you. And then lastly, formaldehyde. Now we started off talking about potential exposures can be through intramuscular injection, and the most common intramuscular injection or reason for that in the United States is vaccinations. Many vaccines have formaldehyde in them, so if you've had a recent vaccine and you have local dermatitis or systemic breakout, it may be from formaldehyde in a vaccine. Formaldehyde is also found in skin products and hair care products. So again, you want to read those labels. And then from a food perspective, formaldehyde is metabolized from aspartame. So if you're consuming aspartame in your diet soft drinks or in many of the processed foods, that may be being metabolized to formaldehyde and resulting in systemic contact dermatitis in you. So wrapping it up, if you have contact dermatitis, also known as eczema, also known as atopic dermatitis, and you've tried all the topicals, you've tried avoiding the wheat, dairy, soy, and eggs, and you're still having outbreaks, it may be one of these hidden triggers that is contributing to further flaring of that, and you want to investigate these things and remove them if you find that you're commonly exposed.